Okay, hi guys, welcome back to Audio Levels channel. Welcome back to another review, and today we're taking a look at the Letshuoer S12 Pro. Still have the Invisalign in, so there's lots of S's in the name for this that's very hard for me to pronounce. So if you like a guy that can't speak properly because he has Invisalign in, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate it, it helps me out. Also, if you're subscribed to the channel, go ahead and leave a comment just saying you have this budget, this is the type of music you listen to, and what type of headphones you're wanting to buy, and I'll throw some recommendations your way. I really like the comment sections of my videos, like lots of people helping each other out, and I've somehow have managed to get a comment section on the internet that's generally quite friendly, so I enjoy that. Anyway, if you have been living under a rock, you probably have not heard of planar magnetic headphones. If you're in some way involved in the hobby, you know that planars are just about the biggest thing on the planet right now. The reason being is that I feel like the companies that introduce them, or TIN introduced them first to popularity. And I feel like because it was TIN, they're seen as a budget-focused company. They put out this planar, and they got this massive hit on their hands. It's a hit that I recommend up to the sort of $500–600 price range. Yes, I actually say that $150 headphone sounds better than a lot, and I mean a lot, of the $500 to $600 headphones I hear, with the caveat that you need to drive them correctly with power. So I kind of feel like planar, in my mind, was just this accident that if a company, I can't think of like a super high-end company like Noble or something like that, had got a hold of that technology, they could have just priced it astronomically. People would have heard it and gone, oh, it's Noble, it's $1,500, $2,000, blah, 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 blah. That's kind of the way this hobby works, is that something comes along and it actually sounds better than stuff that is far more expensive. Now, the planar in the P1, I think, was a 10mm driver. The biggest criticism of it, while it sounded fantastic and had this amazing 3D holographic presentation, was that it failed to deliver for a lot of people like real sub-bass impact. Well, the Letshuoer S12 Pro is a 14.8mm planar magnetic driver. And that means more volume, more space to move, more air. And these, if you're leaning towards that bass heavy sort of tuning, I think are absolutely fantastic. I'm going to talk a little bit about the sound before I get into this, just so that you can switch off if it's not something you're interested in. But right now, I'm going to say that there's three planar magnetics that really catch my eye. The S12 Pro, if I was a bass heavy person, the Wu Zaitan by Tangzhen Wu. I'll leave the link to all of this in the other reviews for these planar magnetic headphones I'm going to talk about. I'll leave a link to that in the description down below. But the Letshuoer S12 Pro, bass heavy, the Wu for all around general listening, and for sort of more rock, classic, acoustic sort of stuff, I would still take the P1. I think it's the P1 Pro original, one with the little metal box, not that giant panda or something, whatever they're calling it. I like the original metal one. The reason I like this one, as I say, is that depth to the bass really adds something. It's the first one with the larger planar drivers that I feel like captures the essence of the original P1 in the way that it presents the music with that 3D presentation, but also throws in an element of sub-bass response, like real sub-bass response. The other thing is fantastic with the speed of the planar magnetic driver is that mid-bass region where it balances the punch and the impact with a really beautiful level of depth and texture and detail in that mid-bass range, which is the area I say this time and time again in my reviews. Mid-bass, if you're listening and you hear this expression, sounds like I'm getting more detail, like from an earphone and stuff like that. Generally, earphones do mids and treble pretty well. There's a lot of earphones to listen to. Sub-bass for me is more about slam, but there's another, I split it into four quadrants, if you will. Sub-bass, mid-bass, mids, and treble, where a lot of people just go bass, mids and treble. For me, that mid bass is so important because that's where you get that extra detail, the refinement and the texture that in a lot of earphones get swamped by a sub bass. The sub bass is so overwhelming that you don't hear the mid bass detail. So if you have one that presents sub bass but mid bass detail at the same time, you get this expression of where you're getting more detail, that you're hearing more. And that for me is a big standout for where Planars sound so good. Now, I've not really reboxed this one like I usually do, but I do want to go over the box and the packaging. Packaging is very basic, but it's sufficient and it's nice. On these earphones, 10 out of 10 on accessories, probably 10 out of 10 on build quality. Like, in regards to the price, this is fantastic. The case is a really generic case and it's just been stamped with the Letshuoer logo, but it is a case I've seen before and I like because it's compact. I can fit this in a pocket, carry the earphones and a few pairs of tips, and it also has that sort of sealed water resistance, not waterproof but water resistance. Now where they really go all out is in ear tip selection. You have plenty here of the sort of comply foam style, not official comply, but the foam style ear tips, which takes a little bit of the edge off the top end and also mutes the bass a little bit. But then you get plenty of silicone tips. Now, as always, I'm going to leave the links to my E-Series tips that I listen to, final E-Series tips, as well as a few other of my favourite ear tips that go well with these earphones. I'll leave that in the link in the description below so that you can check it out. But in general, these white silicons were very, very good. Nice emphasis on the bass with these ones. I found it worked really, really well. But you get full set of complies or foam tips, which are usually just come in one size medium, but they've given you 3 of these. They've given you a full set of black tips and a full set of transparent tips. So that's excellent. Case, excellent. Tips, excellent. But remember, this earphone comes in at about $150. Let's take a look at the cable. The cable is incredible. It is such a good cable. It's something that you would think you would pay $50, $60, $70 for. Way more like a few years ago, but it has a beautiful flow. It really like loses any sort of memory straight out the box. You can see there's not much memory on it. And that's surprising because it's a dual twist. It's a dual twist inside a sleeve dual twist. And then after the splitter, it goes into a single. Surprisingly, there's no microphonics on this one either. And you do get a little cable cinch there. It's terminated in 2-pin, and my only real criticism of the earphone is that the 2-pin connectors are flush mounted, so there's a little bit less protection when you install it upside down, as you're about to see me do here. You can see that the terminals are kind of exposed there, so they will be prone to getting sweat or moisture on them. But the cable in general is just beautiful in the way that it performs. But then you dig even deeper into the case, and they actually have the multi-termination system. So termination systems like this were sort of popularized by Duna's Hulk cable. That cable came out and it was, I'm going to say about $500. Very expensive cable, very good cable. But since then, other companies have been coming out with their own iterations of this concept. The concept being that a lot of high-end audiophile players have a balanced connector, balance being able to drive both channels independently and thus sufficiently power hard to power earphones, which these are actually hard to power earphones. I found that driving them out a phone or a normal MP3 player led me to using them at very high volume levels. So in that regard, I feel like an external amplifier is going to be something useful for this earphone. I was listening with the Thieaudio Honey H1, absolute gem of DAP, link to that video in the description below. But what this allows you to do is interchange the connector. So if you've got let's say a MacBook and you've got a 3.5mm headphone jack, you just switch this one out, give it a little twist and it pops on and you have a 3.5mm. Let's say you have the Thieaudio and you've got 4.4mm balanced. You just pop that off, give it a little twist it will find the alignment, and there you go, you have a 4.4. Now it doesn't have a locking mechanism like you would have with the Duna Hulk, for example. The Duna Hulk has a locking mechanism where you pull back and it releases. This one's just friction fit, so a little bit less secure. So if your DAP falls, this is probably going to pop off, and your DAP will meet a horrible demise and shatter into a million different pieces and make you cry. Has actually happened to me, not with this headphone, but I have dropped an iBasso DX300 and smashed just about everything on it. But yeah, cable, absolutely fantastic. Let's take a look at the earphones themselves. All metal construction, really, really nice fit. I feel like it's a very similar shape that Shure have used in the past. But very ergonomically friendly and surprisingly small, given that it's a 14.8mm driver on the inside. I found these very, very, very comfortable, and because they're made of metal, a nice sort of cooling. You got a little bit of ventilation there for the driver, metal grill grates to protect, as I say, flush mounted connector, and they do save some space by putting the connector on this protrusion there, but I never found that it got in the way of my ears, or despite having sort of sharp beveled edges, I didn't find that it caused any discomfort or anything. Fairly lightweight as well, really, really comfortable, and one of the smaller Planars. If you're comparing this to something like the 7Hz Timeless, it's night and day. Buy these because they sound better, but also buy these because they fit better and they don't have that stupid disc that the Timeless have. Anyway, the earphones just very comfortable, medium depth insertion, very good seal with the stock silicones. Now, the sound, let's get into the meat and potatoes, and for this I'm going to do a separate video. Subscribe to the channel, because sometime in the next month I'm going to do a massive roundup. I have 2 more Planars coming in that I need to listen to and do their own independent reviews, but at that point I'm going to compare the Rap2Go Hook X, the Woo, the Tin P1, P1 Plus, Giant Panda, the Letshuoer, the Timeless 7Hz. All of that stuff is going to get directly compared, and I'm going to rank them. So subscribe to that or for that. But I'll give you a quick rundown of where I'm at right now. Top 3, still the Tin P1. I don't care what people say. This obsession with something new being released and somehow it's better than something else. No, the P1 were legendary when they came out, and they're still legendary today. P1 are still, despite using the Kinera Skald as my primary earphone and my Sony IERs, I've been using more over the past 3 months. Sony IERs, Kinera Skald, and the Tin Hi-Fi P1 are pretty much my permanent rotation earphones. So I have access, and you've seen my other videos, I have all those earphones, I have them all. I still keep them, I don't get rid of them. I have everything there, and the P1 is still an earphone that I choose to listen to personally. In fact, I'm traveling to America in 3 days' time. I'm taking the P1 with me. That's the earphones that are coming with me, along with my newly acquired Link Buds that I just bought. And watch for the review on this, because these are absolute destroyers. These are so good. The sound on these, let me put it this way, take the P1 sort of thing that made it so special, the 3D holographic presentation, take that, the special quality of a Planar, and then add bass to it. Now, I know that the original S12 were a little bit light on the treble, but there's an energy in the top end and there's a weight in the low end, and that combines to make it so good for electronic music, modern pop music, stuff like that, things that use electronic elements in it. You get that crispness of the highs without the harshness of, say, a balanced armature that has a sort of metallic sheen. Certain drivers have that metallic sheen. This doesn't have that. It's got a smooth but very crystalline presentation on the treble. It's got really nice weight on the sub bass. I'm not going to say it's something like a TFZ number 3, but it's the most impactful that I've found from the Planars so far. But in that, you do not lose resolution and detail in the mid bass. The mid bass on this sounds so detailed. Listening to jazz music, You get the reverberations of the strings, you get the decay is so naturally present. As somebody that listens to a lot of live jazz music, these have a real realism in the way that a double bass decays and rolls off. It sounds very, very, very natural and very, very textured in the display, especially when you hear a solo. And I know that's a niche case, but that sort of exemplifies what the earphones do well. And that carries over, trust me, into bass, rap, hip hop, that other stuff. The bass on this is more than just impact. It is very detailed. Now, if I was going to be critical of one area, this is where I still see the P1 as having an advantage. The P1 has a more forward mid-bass presentation. The mids on this are very detailed, very clear, have good imaging, but they do sit back. They are not a forward presented mid-range. So if you're somebody that is really into like screaming vocals, a lot of Asian genres, J-rock, J-pop, maybe listen to some Deering Gray or something like that, where it's like heavily focused on that bang in the mid-range sort of stuff. I think that you would want something a little bit more forward than that. These, as I say, is more bass for music that sweeps between peaking highs and dipping lows. The mid-range on this is fairly smooth throughout. It's not offensive in any way. It's not in your face, and it especially is smoother off at the upper mid-range. The upper mid-range on this is far more easier to deal with than somebody who maybe is averse to certain female vocals. When female vocals in the upper mid-range, it can be a little bit sharp on the P1 in certain cases. That's why I use certain DAPs or certain EQs with it. This is far more versatile. It's not as versatile as the Woo, for example. It's maybe more in tuning with a more laid-back mid-range in comparison to the 7 Hertz Timeless. But overall, I think you're getting that 3D presentation, that quality, that holographic presentation where the music just seems to float in a space, but you're getting that added thump. So I'm going to say this is top 3. I'm tempted to put it next to the Woo. Now, I have the P1 as number 1. You just need to understand that it's going to take a lot for me to let that earphone go. I have a love and affinity that I'm familiar with. Something might come along that is technically better, but this channel is about what I listen to, what I like, what I want to do, with the thought that if you like something I like, you can find benefit in. If I listen to this, for example, and I say I like this, you're probably going to like that as well, as opposed to just this arbitrary nonsense that a lot of reviewers come out with. They're just saying this is this and this is one of the best and this is among the good. No, I'm saying that this is, to me, just below the P1 for me and about level with the Woo. The Woo being probably a better all-rounder, but this one definitely leaned towards the S12 Pro if you're wanting something with more bass, punch and emphasis. But just get this in your head that there's almost no bad headphones. When you're talking about the 7 Hertz Timeless, when you're talking about the Raptigo Hook, when you're talking about the Letshuoer S12 Pro, P1s and stuff like that, people that say that these earphones are bad are off their heads. People that exaggerate, I don't like it because this and this and this. You don't like it, or you just prefer something else. To me, these earphones are so good, and as somebody that's been in this hobby since the 1990s, the mid-1990s, this is the stuff of dreams. All these Planars are to such a high level. It's ridiculous at this point. And for people to come out and say, this one's garbage, that's not how it works, guys. You're talking variations of brilliance at this point. Like, with the market we're in, you're getting an earphone that sounds like this for $150 or around about $150. That's bonkers. Definitely recommended. Hope you liked the video. Sorry about it being 20 minutes. I went on a couple of rants there, but I'm going to timestamp the video so that you can just jump and skip the nonsense I'm talking to. But yeah, thank you again for watching. Thank you for sticking with the channel, guys. Coming up next, the Talus review.